You know that writing is a rather lonely activity. It means that the writer has no contact with the readers, except at times like this. So these are magic moments for me, because after a session of 6-7 hours of sighing, I feel really great, you know. And that's the time when you can exchange things, the energy which exists between a writer and a reader. We are at the same level. A writer is rather an emotional catalyst. More than that, he is someone who arouses in readers things that they already know. But I still need this contact, because the loneliness of the writer's work is sometimes a little bit hard. It's quite amazing. It is an adventure between Carrière and I, and it is still an adventure, because I am totally convinced that a writer is not made of one book, but the whole of his works. France opened this way, then the rest of Europe, then it led to the rest of the world. Of course, when I was here for the first time, I was a hippie. I hated Paris, and I promised I'd never come back to Paris again. Because there were prejudices against hippies, and there were too many problems of communication. But my culture was French. After that, I came back several times in France, in the Pyrenees, my place, and I adored. Well, this is a country that, from food to literature, to philosophy, to wine, for anything, it is always the best. And the whole Brazilian culture is much more influenced by France than the United States. I was always brought up with this in mind.
I thought it was impossible to make a living out of writing. So in Brazil, when I told to my mother I wanted to be a writer, of course she was very sad. And she said, you should do anything and then writing. But and which I did. I tried, you know, I went to the law school and I started studying law. But then I decided that when you choose something, you have to burn the bridges. You have to just to focus in the thing that is important for you and do that, no matter how high is the price. And of course, you are allowed sometimes to quit your destiny, as I did several times, because I thought, oh, I've been defeated several times in my process of trying to be a writer. So either because there were normal difficulties like finding a publisher, etc., or because I was afraid also, in the sense that you can easily say that I want to be a writer, but it is a totally different thing of writing a book. You can be a writer without a book, you understand that? Oh, I'm a writer, and then they ask you, what are you writing? And you say, I'm still working in this huge project. So you never face your destiny. In The Alchemist, there is a character, the crystal shop merchant. He has all the possibilities of fulfilling his destiny, but he's always postponing. The same thing happened with me. So I had the chance of writing, and I was postponing it. Then I started to write for newspapers, then I started to write lyrics for songs, and then I decided that it was too much, that now I have to try some more serious thing, like being an executive of a record industry. But if you are allowed to quit your destiny, but you're not allowed to forget it. I don't have any explanation. I respect the success, but I don't have explanation for the success. So I try to honor it. Of course, today I'm tired, not tired, after nearly 2 weeks work in London and Tokyo, and I try to do my best. But I never think about it. I never think about it. I just try to live the present moment as intense as I can. I believe that each one of us has just a spiritual message inside of ourselves. And perhaps my only task is to awaken that. Not to give, but to say, hey, you have it. So why don't you pay attention to the things that you have inside? And the Japanese, perhaps after a moment of too centered in the materialistic world, they have that inside. They have that inside. It's not me. It's not me. It is them. It is them, and the book acts only as a catalyst. It brings up energies that were already there. But from the moment that people do not feel alone, they realize that there are another one, think like them, then this thing explodes inside themselves. So I don't give myself too much importance. Spiritual crisis, end of the millennium. I don't believe in any of these explanations. This is totally stupid. This is the explanation that the old academical system have for a new way of seeing life. You know? So I do believe that we're going through a major revolution in human behavior. I do believe that people start to think differently. And then even though the old representatives of the ancient academy, they are saying, oh, this is typical millennium crisis. If we wouldn't have the same problems before and after midnight of the year 2000. So that's what I think. I think that we're going through a major change, and several people are working on that. Yesterday I met here in Japan a psychiatrist who is trying to use alternative treatments to crazy people, and she's succeeding very, very well. I don't know, you know Mrs.
Keiko Inasawa.
Keiko Inasawa. Yeah. So that's it. We are going through a major change. Either people accept it or not, either intellectual or academical accept it or not, we're going through a major change. And I see myself just as a small particle of this change. And as someone said in one of these notes, I don't feel alone. So I also don't feel alone, but I am just a small part of it. Because this change will affect the whole mankind. Perhaps not tomorrow, not in this next 10 days, not in the next 10 years, but for sure, in 100 years from now, we will consider what the ancient intellectuals call crisis as the real change, because this is the Chinese meaning for crisis, no? A moment of taking a decision. For 3 or 4 years, in the early 70s, and I used to study Buddhism, and then after I used to study Zen Buddhism, that it is basically a physical posture, but I don't have it. But, and they are very close to us in the sense that also they don't blame the joy of life. We used to see Christianity as something that is linked to suffering, but Jesus Christ never said that, never behaved like that. He was someone who spent most of his time traveling and eating. So most of, if you read the Bible carefully, the New Testament, you're going to see that part, 90% of the Gospels, they take place around the table or traveling or enjoying life, you know. So I think that also Buddha, you know, first he had this rebellious force against his family, which I think is very important in order to be assured about your dreams, and also Christ. And then they had this connection, this strong connection with life. Of course, if you read the two, let's say, sacred texts, it appears that they are different, but basically they are talking about the same truth, the same word, and the same way that we can connect ourselves to spirituality, to that reality that we cannot see, but even though it's present. We cannot see the fog, but you know it is foggy day, eh? But nearby we cannot see it. So for me this is the presence of Mother Earth, you know, the presence of the feminine energy. And I think that it is very symbolic that we are here in Japan, and all the time it was nearly raining, because I used to tell Japan is a very feminine country. And I think nature, in order to show to you also that it is a very feminine country, during the shooting of the documentary, she decided to become feminine, and so it rained all the time. And I think it was a symbol, a gift from Mother Nature to us, not something that will spoil our journey across this earth, but a kind of gift. It's a beautiful gift, isn't it? There are something of Buddhism in my books, because it was a religion that it was very important for me, and can touch not only Japanese, but perhaps the Japanese don't recognize the Buddhism, but we, on the other side of the earth, because there is not such a separation. A religion is a cultural manifestation of a country, a people, but if you look inside of the sacred texts, Islam or Japan or Christianity, they talk about the same thing. That's why, for me, we are living a very important moment, a kind of revolution, inner revolution, that you can have all the people explaining, oh, this is the end of the century crisis, oh, this is the economic crisis, oh, this is because people lost their beliefs, and no matter what they say, in 100 years from now, we will realize that the real revolution is happening now, with people who dare to talk about things that are not politically correct or logical. We dare to assume or to accept our feminine side. We dare to accept that the rain is not something that spoils our day, but is something that cleans us from everything. Sumimasen.